The mysterious death of the Cranberries lead singer Dolores O'Riordan. The 90s rock star died in a London hotel Monday at just 46 years old.
January 15, 2018. Morning. A housekeeper at London's Park Lane Hilton opens the door to room 2005. Dolores O'Riordan, the voice that defined alternative rock in the 90s, lies motionless in a bathtub. She's 46 years old. 5 empty miniature bottles scatter the room. She was supposed to record vocals that very day. Just hours earlier, she'd left an excited voicemail for music executive Dan Waite.
I'm at the Hyatt Park Hilton. Anyway, if you want me to come in and question this, actually, I think it's fucking awesome. It sounds fucking terribly good.
That recording session would never happen, and the band that sold nearly 50 million albums worldwide would cease to exist. This is the story of how a shy Irish girl became the voice of a generation, and how the weight of that voice eventually became too heavy to carry. Limerick, Ireland, late 1980s. 3 teenagers, brothers Noel and Mike Hogan, and their friend Fergal Lawler, had a band called the Cranberries. Their problem was simple. Their singer, Niall Quinn, was ordinary, and ordinary wasn't going to get them out of Ireland, where U2 and Sinead O'Connor had already set an impossibly high bar. Quinn knew it too. After just a few months, he left, but did them one final favor. He told them his girlfriend knew someone. That someone was 18-year-old Dolores O'Riordan. She was painfully shy, the youngest of 7 surviving children from a devoutly Catholic working-class family in Ballybricken, County Limerick. Her father had been a farm laborer until a motorcycle accident years before she was born left him unable to work. Her mother Eileen worked as a school caterer to support the large family. When Dolores was 7, her sister accidentally burned their house down. The rural community rallied together to buy them a new one. But there was darker trauma lurking beneath. From age 8 to 12, someone she trusted, someone her whole community trusted, sexually abused her. She wouldn't speak about it publicly for decades, but that pain would shadow everything. Music became her escape. She'd been singing before she could talk. By 5, her school principal would sit her on a teacher's desk to perform for older students.
You see, I was singing before I could even talk. It wasn't something I learned, mind you. It was just there. Those feelings in my heart, just pouring out spiritually in my voice.
By 12, she was writing her own songs. At 17, she learned guitar. And at 18, she walked into Zarek Studios for an audition that would change everything. When she opened her mouth to sing, the 3 young men froze. Her voice was unlike anything they'd heard. A lilting mezzo-soprano that blended Irish folk tradition with rock power.
Hold on to love.
She yodeled, she whispered, she wailed. And crucially, she never tried to hide her thick Limerick accent. In an era when most artists attempted to sound international, Dolores sounded defiantly Irish. Noel Hogan gave her a cassette tape with some instrumental tracks and asked her to write lyrics. A few days later, she came back with a complete song. It was called Linger. Written about her first boyfriend, a soldier who'd broken her heart. The band knew immediately. They'd found something special. Within months, they'd renamed themselves the Cranberries and recorded demos featuring early versions of Linger and Dreams. Those tapes were sent directly to record labels in London. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Multiple major labels entered a bidding war. Rough Trade founder Jeff Travis personally called them. Island Records ultimately won, signing them to a 6-album deal. The speed of it all should have been a warning. Success that comes this fast rarely prepares you for what follows. MTV and the Warrington bombing, March 1993. The Cranberries released their debut album, Everybody Else Is Doing It, So Why Can't We? And nothing happened. The album stalled. The singles didn't chart. Critics were lukewarm. Island Records had invested heavily, and the band looked like they might become another one-album failure story. They did what struggling bands do. They hit the road, opening for bigger acts. First for The during the summer, then for British band Suede in the fall. Night after night, they played to crowds waiting for the headliner. But something strange started happening. MTV, always hunting for the next big thing, noticed something about the Linger video. Dolores had this ethereal quality, pixie haircut, bare feet or Dr. Martens, and almost otherworldly presence. MTV put Linger into heavy rotation. The song began climbing American charts. By early 1994, it reached number 8 on the Billboard Hot 100 and stayed there for 24 weeks. Dreams resurged, climbing to number 42. Suddenly, the album that had flopped was certified gold, then platinum, then multi-platinum. By mid-tour, something unprecedented happened. The running order was reversed. The Cranberries became the headliners, and Suede opened for them. Dolores later described what this felt like. "I remember when MTV first put Linger in heavy rotation. Every time I walked into a diner or a hotel lobby, it was like, Jesus man, here I am again. It was trippy like Jacob's Ladder. I didn't even have to take drugs." But the real explosion was still to come, born from tragedy. In March 1993, while the Cranberries were touring England, something horrific happened in the town of Warrington just outside Liverpool. The IRA planted 2 bombs in cast iron litter bins, one outside a McDonald's, the other outside an Argos store. It was the day before Mother's Day. The shopping district was packed with children buying gifts for their mothers. When the bombs detonated, panicked crowds from the first blast ran directly into the path of the second. 56 people were injured. 2 children were killed. 3-year-old Jonathan Ball died at the scene. 12-year-old Tim Perry died 5 days later from his injuries. Dolores was devastated. She watched the news coverage, saw the mothers' faces, and something broke inside her. She later told Vox magazine, "I remember seeing one of the mothers on television just devastated. I felt so sad for her that she'd carried him for 9 months, been through all the morning sickness, the whole thing, and some person who thought he was making a point did that." She was furious. As an Irish artist touring England, she felt a responsibility to make something absolutely clear. The IRA are not me. I'm not the IRA. The Cranberries are not the IRA. My family are not. On the tour bus, she started writing. The anger poured out of her. The frustration. The grief for children she'd never met. The exhaustion of a conflict that had been raging since 1916. The song was called Zombie. When they brought it to producer Stephen Street, he was shocked. This wasn't the dreamy, romantic sound of Linger. This was grunge-level distortion, shouted vocals, raw fury. Island Records was terrified. Releasing a politically charged anti-IRA song as a lead single seemed commercially suicidal. According to former manager Alan Kovac, the label offered O'Riordan a $1 million check to work on a different song instead. She ripped it up. Zombie was released in September 1994 as the lead single from No Need to Argue. It went to number 1 in Australia, Belgium, Denmark, France, Germany, and Iceland. It hit number 1 on the US Alternative Airplay chart and stayed there for 6 weeks. The video, filmed in Northern Ireland, featuring children with guns, IRA murals, and Troubles-era Belfast, was initially banned by the BBC and RTE, who aired an edited concert version instead. The original video would go on to accumulate over 1.4 billion views on YouTube, making the Cranberries the first Irish band to reach 1 billion views. The Cranberries weren't just successful anymore, they were a cultural phenomenon. No Need to Argue debuted at number 6 on the Billboard 200. They were selling out arenas. Dolores' face was everywhere, her voice was inescapable, and that's when the cracks started to show. Success at this level is like being trapped in a burning building with everyone congratulating you on the beautiful flames. In July 1994, Dolores married Don Burton, the former tour manager for Duran Duran, at Holy Cross Abbey in County Tipperary. She was 23 years old. They bought estates, a medieval-style house, an ultra-modern home, eventually a 150-acre stud farm. They had 3 children, Taylor Baxter, Molly Lee, and Dakota Rain. From the outside, it looked perfect. Their third album, To the Faithful Departed, debuted at number 4 in 1996, their highest chart position. The singles Salvation and Free to Decide became hits. They performed at the Nobel Peace Prize ceremony. They were named one of the most outstanding Irish bands of all time, alongside U2 and Van Morrison. But Dolores was falling apart. In her own words, she was very depressed and extremely anorexic during that album. The pressure was suffocating. Every interview, every appearance, every performance was scrutinized. The music press that had built her up was now tearing her down. The touring schedule was relentless. She struggled with insomnia. developing a dependence on sleeping pills just to function. Halfway through their 1996-97 world tour, the band made a shocking announcement. They were canceling all remaining dates. The official reason was exhaustion. The press suspected something darker. The band's management went mental, but her bandmates supported her decision. This was 1997. Mental health wasn't discussed openly, especially not by rock stars at the height of their fame. They took a year off, came back with Bury the Hatchet in 1999, a more mature, introspective album. Followed it with Wake Up and Smell the Coffee in 2001. But the commercial momentum was gone. The music landscape had shifted to nu metal, pop punk, and hip-hop. Their new label barely promoted the albums. In 2003, the Cranberries announced they were going on hiatus. It was presented as a mutual decision to pursue solo projects, but everyone understood what it really meant. The pressure had finally crushed them. Dolores was 32 years old and had spent her entire adult life in the Cranberries. She needed to figure out who she was without them. She released 2 solo albums. She coached on The Voice of Ireland. She formed a side project called DARK. She tried to be normal, to be a mother, to be Dolores, not the voice of the Cranberries. But normal was impossible. The trauma she'd been carrying since childhood, the poverty, her father's injury, and most devastatingly the sexual abuse kept pulling her under. In 2013, she revealed to Life magazine what she'd kept secret for decades. She'd been sexually abused for 4 years, starting when she was 8 years old, by someone she trusted. The shame and pain from that abuse had shadowed every moment of her success. In 2014, her 20-year marriage ended. Her 3 children stayed in Canada with their father. Dolores moved to New York, living first in a hotel, then at Trump Tower. The separation from her children devastated her. The depression deepened. She turned to alcohol to cope. In November 2014, something snapped. On an Aer Lingus flight from New York to Ireland, Dolores became verbally and physically abusive to the crew. When police tried to arrest her at Shannon Airport, she resisted, headbutting one officer and spitting at another. She shouted, "I'm the Queen of Limerick. I'm an icon." Medical records presented in court revealed what was happening. Dolores was in the middle of a severe mental health crisis. The following year, she was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. Everything suddenly made sense. The extreme highs and lows, the periods of intense creativity followed by crushing depression, the inability to maintain emotional equilibrium. She publicly discussed her diagnosis in May 2017, telling interviewers, "There are 2 ends of the spectrum. You can get extremely depressed and dark and lose interest in the things you love to do, then you can get super manic. I was at the hypomanic side of the spectrum on and off for a long period, but generally you can only last at that end for around 3 months before you hit rock bottom and go down into depression." She also revealed something even more devastating. During her darkest period in 2013, she had tried to take her own life. She told the Belfast Telegraph, "I tried to overdose, but I was meant to stay here for the kids." But Dolores was fighting. The Cranberries had reunited in 2009 and released Roses in 2012. In 2017, they released Something Else, an acoustic reimagining of their greatest hits, along with 3 new songs. They announced a tour. Dolores seemed better, more stable. In December 2017, she tweeted about performing at a Billboard party, saying she felt good, that it had been her first gig in months. By late 2017, she was working on new Cranberries material. The band was planning another album, and she'd been approached by an LA metal band called Bad Wolves to record a cover of Zombie. Dolores loved the idea, especially that they'd updated the lyrics to say in 2018, instead of since 1916. A new generation discovering her most powerful song. She was scheduled to record her vocals in London on January 15, 2018. The final night. Late December 2017. Dolores flew to Toronto to see her children for the holidays. She tweeted, "Heading to YYZ to see my babies. Happy New Year, everyone." Her psychiatrist, Dr. Robert Hirschfield, spoke with her that day. He later stated she was doing well. She was not drinking. She was a little sad on Christmas Day. No thoughts of suicide. Early January 2018, she posted what would become her final social media message. It was a post of her and her cat Geo with the caption, "Bye-bye, Geo. We're off to Ireland." She was going home to Limerick, to the house she'd recently bought near her hometown. But first, she had to stop in London. She checked into the Park Lane Hilton on January 14th. Her primary purpose was a studio mixing session with producer Martin Youth Glover for her side project DARK's second album. She was also scheduled to meet with the Cranberries record label. And she had the Bad Wolves session, the one she was most excited about. At 1:12 a.m. on January 15th, she called Dan Waite, a music executive and longtime friend. She left a voicemail that was full of life. She said the Bad Wolves version was awesome. She was excited to record. She invited him to come by the studio later that morning to hear the results. What happened in room 2005 between that phone call and 9 a.m. the next morning, no one will ever fully know. The coroner's inquest, held on what would have been her 47th birthday, revealed the forensic details. She had consumed 5 miniature bottles of spirits from the minibar and half a bottle of champagne. Her blood alcohol level was more than 4 times the legal driving limit. There were therapeutic amounts of prescription medications in her system, medication for her bipolar disorder and chronic back pain. Police found her submerged in the bathtub, wearing pajamas. Her nose and mouth were underwater. There was no suicide note, no evidence of self-harm, no signs of a struggle. Coroner Shirley Radcliffe ruled there's no evidence that this was anything other than an accident. Dolores O'Riordan had drowned. The woman who had spent her career pouring her pain into songs that resonated with millions had gotten drunk, drawn a bath, and accidentally slipped under the water. She died alone in a hotel room, thousands of miles from her children, the night before she was supposed to reimagine the song that had made her famous. The music world was stunned. Irish President Michael D. Higgins released a statement. Prime Minister Leo Varadkar said,
I think for so many of us, especially those of us who grew up in the 1990s, she was the voice of a generation.
Colin Perry, the father of Tim Perry, one of the children killed in the Warrington bombing that inspired Zombie, tweeted, I'm saddened to hear of the death of Dolores O'Riordan at just 46. Her wonderful band recorded a moving song after the Warrington bomb in memory of 2 innocent victims, Jonathan Ball and my son Tim. R.I.P. Dolores. Bad Wolves released their cover of Zombie days after her death, donating all proceeds to her 3 children. By June 2018, they presented her family with a check for $250,000, with a goal of reaching $1 million. The tribute video has been viewed over 1 billion times. The Cranberries' music flooded streaming services. Sales increased by over 900,000% in the 24 hours after her death was announced. The legacy. After Dolores' passing, the remaining members of the Cranberries were left with a choice no band ever wants to face. She had already recorded her vocals for one last project, so they decided to finish it, not as a new beginning but as a farewell. In 2019, In the End arrived. Charting across Europe and earning a Grammy nomination. It was tender, understated, and unmistakably hers. Shortly after, the band announced they would not continue. No replacement singer, no tribute tours. The Cranberries existed because of Dolores, and without her, the story had reached its natural end. Yet her influence kept growing. She became the top female artist in the history of Billboard's Alternative Songs chart, received the Ivor Novello Award, and inspired musicians from Florence Welch to Halsey. And Zombie, decades after it was written, rose again as a modern anthem sung in stadiums around the world. So what really happened to the Cranberries? 4 young musicians built a sound that blended fragility and power, guided by a voice unlike any other. Dolores turned her struggles into songs that helped millions feel seen, even when she carried more than she ever shared. Her voice lingers. It always will. Now I want to hear from you. Which Cranberries song has stayed with you the longest and why? Your answers not only keep her legacy alive, they also help this channel find the people who grew up with this music too. If you enjoyed this story and want more deep dives into the artists who shaped our lives, feel free to subscribe. It helps these documentaries reach those who still care about them. And if this episode moved you, a simple like goes a long way.